You know, Kaddish is the last thing we can do, really, in our parents' memory. The last thing we can give them. And I just want to share with you how the origin of Kaddish came along. You see, Yaakov, our forefather, was in Egypt. And he went down to Egypt, and we all know what was going on in Egypt. A lot of bad things. So his kids went to him before he passed away and said, "Dad, here we are for you." Okay, kids? They said to him very simple. They said, "Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel." By that time, Yaakov's name was Israel. Hashem Elokeinu, God is our God. Hashem Echad, God is one. To which that, Yaakov responded, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Voed. Blessed is his holy name forever and ever. That line is an approximate translation of what we say in the main line of Kaddish. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mivarach Le'alam Olmei Almayo. There's a lot of things I could share with you about Kaddish and personal things and thoughts. But I want to say one other thing. The sages say that honoring parents after they pass away is a bigger mitzvah than when they're alive. Why is that? Because many say we only honor parents out of fear or out of inheritance. When we say Kaddish, we say Total L'Shem Shemaim, for the sake of heaven. I want to share with you two stories. One of them sounds better in person than basically in the book. But all these stories are individuals who told me their stories, and I made sure I got their names and information, and, well, just like they are, they're inspiring. This one is called A Second Chance at Kaddish, which was written by... She works at Jerusalem Post, that's why it came out so nicely. She sent the story on behalf of her brother, and there it is. It's also available on YouTube, by the way. So this fellow was traveling to Israel and got a free flight because of air miles. Marv at the time of the year was at 9:30 p.m. So he boarded the plane. I'm not sure which airlines, maybe TWA, etc. And here is the story. I walked slowly through the aisles, carefully scrutinizing the passengers, searching for kippot, streimels, fedora hats, and even baseball caps. I needed to get a minyan together, and nobody looked even remotely Jewish. I couldn't believe the year was almost over, and of all situations, being on the way to Israel to visit my widowed mother, I wasn't going to be able to get together a minyan. With a heavy heart, I called a close friend of mine on my cell phone and asked him to say Kaddish, just in case I wouldn't succeed in doubling Marv with a minyan that night. The plane took off. It was about 10:30 in the evening, and the seatbelt lights were turned off. Like many of you, when you go on a plane, seatbelt lights are turned off. My wife, Faggy, went around the plane asking each person whether they were Jewish or not. Every time I got an answer in the affirmative, I asked that person to please join me for Marv's services at the back of the plane. Nobody, but nobody, was interested. Okay? We tried another tactic. We went around again saying I had to say Kaddish, so would they please join me at the back of the plane for Marv's services? After much effort and persuasion, we were finally able to get 9 Jewish men to agree to do me the enormous favor of making up a minyan so that I could say Kaddish. By the time we were able to get them together, dinner was being served, and everyone had to sit down. After dinner, we went back to the 9 men who had given their consent to make up a minyan, but now, after having eaten, they were tired, and one by one they backed out. I was left with only 5 men who were willing to help me out with the minyan. Greatly disheartened, I returned to my seat, dejected and depressed. But what? I just returned to my seat when the plane suddenly experienced wild turbulence. We're seasoned air travelers. We've been traveling years, but we never experienced anything like this. The dinner trays were flying in every direction. The overhead compartments flew open, bags and suitcases spilling onto the aisles and on the heads of the passengers. They were screaming and crying everywhere. My wife turned to me and said, "I guess you won't have to worry about saying Kaddish anymore." She told the children to hold hands, and together we recited the Shema. We really thought we were going to die. After about 4 minutes, or seemed like eternity, Just as suddenly as it started, the turbulence ended, the plane stabilized, and everyone returned to normal. The captain made an announcement over the loudspeaker. I've been flying planes for more than 25 years, and this was the worst turbulence I've ever experienced. Immediately following this experience, my wife went over to the flight attendant and asked her to announce that evening services followed by Kaddish will be recited in the next few minutes in the back of the plane. And guess what? Within moments, the aisles were filled with men. Lots and lots and lots of men. Guess how many men there were? By the time I got there were more than 50 men waiting for me at the back of the plane. Faggy asked the flight attendant for a bunch of napkins for their heads, since not one of them owned a head covering. Together with the kids, my wife distributed TWA napkins as service kippot. My father's Kaddish was answered Barov Am with a large majority, the most dignified and respectable imaginable way. This filled me with indescribable satisfaction that I had fulfilled the mitzvah of honoring my father's memory to the utmost degree. And now, another one about Kaddish. There's more, but these are highlights. There was a fellow, I heard this from a shaliach here, from Israel, and there was a fellow in the city of Ramat Gan in Israel. Anyone heard of Ramat Gan? It's a dati and regular city. A fellow came into shul one time, and a relative passed away. He went up to the rabbi and said, Rabbi, I don't know what to do, but I want to start saying Kaddish. He started going every week, morning and night. After 2 weeks, he started leading the service. And he started going every day, the first one in, the last one out. He did this for 2 months, for 3 months, 5 months, 6 months. He's still coming every single day. 8 months, 9 months, 10 months. The man's coming every single day. 11 months, 12 months, 13 months. He's still saying Kaddish every day, by the way. 14 months, 15 months, and then 16 months. And after 16 months, someone in the shul gives him a little nudge, about the Kaddish, He goes to approach the rabbi. He said to the rabbi in the middle of the shul, Rabbi, I want to ask you a question. Do I have to say Kaddish anymore, yes or no? And the rabbi looks back at him and says, you know what? Come back in a week, I'll tell you the answer. In a week. Goes back in a week. And he answers again in front of everybody. He says, Rabbi, what is the law? Do I have to say Kaddish, yes or no? And everybody's looking at him, just like you're looking at me. If he says no, it's goodbye Charlie. You're not going to see him again. And if he says yes, he's not telling the truth. So what does he say to the man? He stares him down, the fellow, says him straight like this. He says, my dear friend, by the letter of the law, you do not have to say Kaddish anymore. He goes, however, there's one phrase that you have to recite every single day. What is that? That is the phrase, Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevarach Li'alam Al Me'al Maya. May his great name be blessed forever and ever. When I heard that story, I used to go to shul, whatever, Kaddish, not Kaddish. I made a point, yes, stay right to say Yehei Shmei Rabba, whatever. And I heard that, I said, that's it. And you know what? That is really the true version of Kaddish. If you can't say Kaddish, someone else has to say Kaddish. You have to be a minion. You have to help others out. I'm proud to say I think I see someone in the back who's actually in the book. Please take a bow. Rabbi Yechiel Goldreich, stand up. Stand up. He has an amazing story, which is actually about his grandfather. And it's in the book. I can't tell it to you, but it's a great story too. And actually I'm searching for additional stories. So I'm proud to say that the book is now being translated into Spanish, because it was in South America. And hopefully other languages too, but it's for everybody, women included, everybody young and old. I look forward to telling you more about it, to you getting the book, and I'm willing to answer a couple of questions if you can. If you don't have any questions, any comments, just fire away, I'm here. Yes? Anybody have a question? Anybody think they have a question? Thoughts? Yes? Scratching? Okay, well, then I'm going to leave it to our dear friend Elliot Katz. Thank you very much again, everybody. Thanks for coming out, and thank you.